So much talk about whether or not Trevor Lawrence is really good or not. All of that talk will end this year, and we're going to have the story for you here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is exactly your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you tap into that location, whether you watch or listen. Does not matter as long as you check in so you do not miss an episode. Here's what we're going to go over today. By the end of the show, we'll talk about no more excuses or debates when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. I mean that in a good and a bad way. Whether or not people are justified by saying he's not very good, or the people who think everything that has gone wrong with him belongs on somebody else's plate, that goes out of the window this year. And I'll explain all of that here today. In the middle of the show, we'll talk about weapons and protection. Those are two things that have to exist in order for Trevor Lawrence to succeed. We'll talk about where they are with those things and why it seems so hard for Jaguar fans to embrace newness when it comes to acquiring talent. But we'll start at the very top. Trevor Lawrence will be defined by 2025. What I mean by that is this. It is not on the onus. It's not the goal for Jaguar coaches and the organization to change the mind of fans and change the mind of media. It's on their goal is to be as successful as they possibly can. And one thing that they have all mentioned was Liam Cohen talked about his ability or him working with Trevor Lawrence is one of the reasons he took the job. The other thing is they feel like everybody says they got to get him going, and they have to do it. They have to put structure around him. They have to add weapons. They have to protect him so that he can be the best version of himself. You even heard James Gladstone talk about Trevor Lawrence and the importance of getting that done. I don't think any coach that took the job, including Coach Udinski, the offensive coordinator, I don't think any of those guys doubt for 1 minute that Trevor Lawrence can be a very, very good quarterback, because he's shown that he could be a good quarterback. It just hasn't been as consistent as we would all like. And there are a whole bunch of different reasons why people say that the people that believe he's not very good and the people that believe he is good, there's a good enough sample size that at certain periods in his career, both have been right. I'm on the side of thinking that Trevor can be very, very good. It's just that when I say it like that, the people that think he was a generational talent, and we had folks that said that they didn't believe that he had generational physical ability. They just thought he was very, very, very good, right? But when you use that word generational, it kind of starts making these arguments turn into something that's really, really silly. I just think what has happened is he has been graded by a really ugly curve. And the curve is that everybody thought that when he came into the league that he was immediately going to jump over guys like Justin Herbert, jump over guys like Joe Burrow, and be in the conversation with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. That hasn't happened. That hasn't materialized as of yet. Now, the reasons for it, according to some, is Doug and Press, and before that, Urban. I don't even have to tell you their last name. Y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. One of the other things is lack of weapons on the outside. One of the other things is the lack of protection. And all of those things have a little bit of truth to it. But there are other people that have watched Trevor Lawrence despite those things and in spite of those things, and still look for other stuff and things that he should or could be doing, even when those things don't break down. And in that vacuum, they look at it and say, all those things are right, but two things can be true at one time. He still hasn't done a very good job. Now, what I will give you about Trevor Lawrence is there's something about him early in games that has been bothering me since he got here, and that's the slow starts, right? Throwing high, not getting off the quick starts. Hopefully, good coaching, good scheme changes some of that, a different approach where they come out and run the ball early, but they couldn't run the ball because they couldn't move people for the most part. if they come out and run the ball early, change the philosophy, whatever mechanically they have to work out, I think with the more confidence that he has that he's not going to get hit as much, the confidence that he has in the ability, now that they have Brian Thomas Jr., who is a bona fide superstar wide receiver, the commitment to the run and the commitment to the people that they're going to put up front, and the fact that, and I say this with all due respect, it's like Revenge of the Nerds, right? It's like the football junkies have taken over. The dudes that sit around and figure out ways to dial up stuff. It's like a whole bunch of little Steve Spurriers over there. That's what they do. They're going to dial it up, and they're going to look at the science of the game, and they're going to really, really, really break this thing down and give some consistency to Trevor Lawrence and how they're going to approach football. Those are the things that I think will really, really help Trevor Lawrence this year. Now, why will it be defined this year? Because whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, you can convince people that Urban was terrible. You can convince people that Doug and Press didn't do a very good job schematically or coaching, and maybe Doug wasn't as friendly with Trevor Lawrence as you would think. We can talk about all of that stuff, and it could all be true. But if it doesn't work with Liam Cohen and he doesn't take that next step and he doesn't ascend to at least the level of Jared Goff in terms of results that you have seen the last couple of years in Detroit, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Nobody's going to make an excuse for him anymore. Nobody. Even if it's justified, you don't get three, you already had two coaches. You don't get a third one, and we're going to blame him for it too. That's just not the way it's going to work. Because it could be that the question will come up if Trevor doesn't play well, and did those people ruin him? That's what's going to come up. I'm telling you right now. I think he's going to improve. I think he's going to do exactly what Baker Mayfield did. I think he's going to turn it around. But there have been other guys that weren't able to do that. Jameis Winston hasn't been able to do it. Marcus Mariota hasn't been able to do it. Certainly Sam Darnold did it a little bit, but then Sam Darnold kind of showed up, to be exactly who everybody thought he was the last couple of weeks of the season. So the reason why I believe that this year is so important for Trevor Lawrence is because whether you like him as a player or not, there's just not going to be any room for excuses. And then you have to, when I say grade him with a curve, I'm just thinking, stop looking at him as an all-time great. And that's what everybody thought he was going to be when he was drafted. I think you have to be fair in what your expectations are with Trevor Lawrence. And if you just pipe down and calm down a little bit, you might get a guy that's the top 6, top 7 quarterback in the league, and that will be fine with everybody around here. So we'll talk about that and more, and how the weapons and protection have to improve. And we'll be very, very specific in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Chewy. You probably heard of Chewy. They really do have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Whether you're shopping for food, treats, or even pet health care, Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable. I got a dog tattoo right there. My baby Lexi, I did everything for her for 13 years. So if you want the best, you have to use the best. And with over 100,000 products from your favorite brands, Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food, treats, toys, beds, grooming, and it's not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. I'm telling you, man, fast, the Chewy order will come just like that as soon as you order. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. Moving along here in segment 2. Did I sound like Bernie Mac from Players Club? Moving along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. I'm Tony Wiggins, talking about Trevor Lawrence and how he has to stand tall and be a very, very good quarterback this year. Part of that is going to be keeping him healthy. And how do you keep him healthy? Well, you don't let him take as many hits. You got to shore up the line, man. You got to shore up the line. And there's 2 ways you can do it, with personnel and with scheme. And what I mean by scheme is running the ball more and being effective at running the ball more. It's like body punches to the front 7. You wear them out. You wear them out. And then linebackers that you make them keep their eyes where they're supposed to be, right? And you get more first downs. And the longer you keep them on the field, the worse they get at playing football, which means the better it is for Trevor Lawrence. That's what they have to do. That's how they have to play. The Jaguars have to figure it out in the run game and have to really, really, really do all of the things to keep people at bay instead of letting them tee off on Trevor Lawrence and him having to run out of the pocket. There's some things he could do. He could stop spinning over his right shoulder and running towards the left sideline so much, shortening the field. It makes it very, very difficult to throw when you're running. And I think every time he's gotten hurt, he's been running in that direction. It seems like every time Trevor Lawrence has gotten banged up, he's been running to his left. A quarterback that runs to his left as a right-handed quarterback is going to have to contort his body to do all of these things to get the ball out. And to me, those things are just not inducive for a guy being a real success story. So I really, really, really think the play calling is going to help. I really think the scheme, the change, and the things that they emphasize are going to help. But more importantly, man, his weapons on the outside with Brian Thomas Jr. in the fold as a bona fide superstar, and with the way I don't expect a year or two drop off. In fact, I think he's going to get even better. Brian Thomas Jr. might end up a top 3 wide receiver by the end of this year. I bet you if you poll the people around the league right now, maybe not so much with Malik Neighbors, but if you ask 32 GMs and you could do it quietly, who would they rather have, Brian Thomas Jr. or Marvin Harrison Jr.? I guarantee you they say Brian Thomas. I think 28 of them would choose Brian Thomas Jr. And if you do it with Malik Neighbors, they probably would split right down the middle because Malik had a very, very good year with a bad quarterback, and he offers – this is a certain thing that he does that makes him a very, very good player. It kind of makes me wonder, and they had Jaden Daniels. It kind of makes me, and they had Mason Taylor. It kind of makes me wonder, how in the hell did Brian Kelly not win more games at LSU? But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. Right now, the topic is Trevor Lawrence. Weapons, protection. Do the Jaguars need to go out and get a big-time receiver? I put out the information yesterday about the fact that the Jets are releasing Davante Adams. I said, hell yeah, you call him. And I got inundated with people telling me he's going out west. He wants to play with Aaron. If he doesn't play with Aaron, he's going out west. He's going to the West Coast. He's 32 years old. I said I'd call him. I didn't say we go kidnap him and hold him hostage. I would make a phone call. That will go a long way to them being a 2 wide receiver team. I don't care what it costs. I do it. Y'all sitting there telling me that Gabe Davis's contract is going to stop him from doing it? No, it won't. It'll hurt. It'll hurt. But I wouldn't let Gabe Davis's contract stop me. Not when I can get out of Gabe Davis's contract in a year. I wouldn't worry about that. This is not just about building your team for one season. This is about building your team for the future. And a future Hall of Famer who can still run routes, even though he ain't never really been fast. I'm not like my man Pete Prisco, who thinks everybody needs to be a track star. Dude's going to the Hall of Fame, dude. He can play, all right? And he hasn't lost a step. You have a 2 wide receiver team with him and Brian Thomas Jr., you damn right I'll make that phone call. And I'll probably let Christian Kirk go and I'll put Parker Washington in the slot, and I'll probably let Evan Ingram go too, because I'm going to be throwing the ball to those 2 guys more than anything. At some point, the Jaguars have to just weaponize themselves. Just like people were saying that they should make a move and go ahead and try to give up a late-round pick for Cooper Kupp because of familiarity with the offense. Kupp is slower than Davante Adams, and he's older. Why would you do that? But you wouldn't call a dude that's a free agent, but you trade a draft pick for another guy. The thinking just doesn't match up to me. But I didn't say we were going to go kidnap him and force him to come here. I said I would call him. And if he says I want to go out west, then so be it. Closed mouths don't get fed. Are you going to sit there and not call somebody because people are sitting there telling you, well, he wants to go out west? If he said that, fine, maybe he'll change his mind. He sure left the West last year to go to New York to go play with his quarterback, didn't he? Yeah, he did. So don't worry about it. At least you have to inquire. You have to make that phone call. There are people that want him to take Ted McMillan with the 5th pick. I wouldn't be mad at it because I would see the vision, and I understand that Liam Cohen has had a lot of success with guys with that body type. Those big, long, rangy receivers. He did it in college. He's also done it some with the Rams. When we talk about Kupp, who's also a dude that's like 6'2". Brian Thomas Jr. is long, but Ted would give them a catch radius guy and another big physical person to catch balls on slants and all of that stuff, and they could really, really scheme up some stuff with him and Brian Thomas Jr. I ain't got no problem with none of that either. They also need to fix the line. We have talked ad nauseum about the offensive line, and there are folks that don't want to fix that either. They think that we just get one guard. It was Trey Smith, but now that he's franchise tagged, I've been talking about Will Freeze, and somebody said, well, I'd take James Daniels, and I just told him maybe you ain't watched the tape, and I know you might like James Daniels, but I don't know on what earth you take James Daniels over Will Freeze. I'm sorry, Will Fries, however you say his name. I'm sorry. I think they need a center. There was some talk about everybody was like, where's this Drew Dahlman stuff coming from? It came from me. That's who it came from. And I think JDL, Jordan DeLugo, mentioned it also. Yeah, they need a center, right? And then I go and draft 2 offensive linemen in the draft. At some point, maybe day 2, I get one. I don't know if it's Gray's Abel or whoever. And then right after that, I get another one, maybe in the 4th round. You damn right I would. I would fortify that offensive line so much, move people, get people movers, get guys that can protect Trevor Lawrence so he can get the ball to those weapons. I want to sell out for this team to get better. And the only way they're going to get better is to do things differently. We can't keep sitting here thinking that we're going to do the same thing. And I'm sure that new staff over there, they're gung-ho and ready to weaponize Trevor Lawrence and ready to protect him at all costs. There will be no more excuses or debates about this, though. And I'll tell you why. Segment number 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. So what you going to say now? That's what you're going to hear if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play well. And you're going to hear that from people like Richard Sherman and LaShawn McCoy and maybe some other people and a group of Jaguars people in the fan base. They're going to say what you're going to say now. My man Dalt said if Trevor don't play well this year, we need to move on. Move on to what? It's the first year of his contract extension. What you going to move on to? Trevor's got that money, man. He's going to be here. Right? There ain't nothing to move on from. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the Jaguars quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years. I don't care how he plays. He's going to be the dude over there. He'd have to have a scandal or something, and he is not that type of person. He ain't Deshaun Watson. He ain't going to get in no trouble. Trevor going home with his wife and kid every day, and he's chilling, right? But there will be no excuses, and hopefully there won't be a reason for one. But even if there were reasons to make up, it ain't going to matter much because now, like I said, it'll be the third coach, man. It'll be the third coach, the new system, a coach that everybody seems to think is a very, very good offensive play caller, is a very good scheme coach. These guys have had a lot of success with people like Jared Goff. They've had success even with Sam Darnold last year with Coach Udinski up in Minnesota. Baker Mayfield. It's like, okay, now, come on. I think he has to play well. What is well? I think if he's a top 8 quarterback, people will go, okay, we're headed in the right direction. He had been a fringe top 10 guy, depending who you talk to. He was like ranked somewhere between 9 and 11 or 12 for a lot of people. I happen to think he's a lot better than that. I like Trevor Lawrence. I really do. But this is a results business. 1, he has to stay upright. 2, he can't have those moments where you go, why did you do that? Most of the really, really good quarterbacks around the league, they do a couple of things. And one of those things that they do very well is play well in big games. The other thing that they do very well is they really, really, really do limit their mistakes. They limit the boneheaded plays that make you scratch your head. Like the really good quarterbacks in the league, in this league, just don't do that. And Trevor has to get to the point where that's where he is, right? Where he doesn't do those little things that make you go, man, you ain't a rookie no more, man. You can't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? So to me, eliminating the mistakes, being put in a situation where you can let that big arm go at certain key moments in the game, but for the most part, you're going to manage this thing a little bit, right? You're going to control the game with the run, control the ball with the run game. We're going to manage it. We're going to get first downs. We're going to be efficient from start to finish. I don't care if it leads to a bunch of 27-20 victories or even some 23-16 wins. That's fine. I don't care if he doesn't throw for 300 yards a game and score 37, 38 points. That'd be nice, but for me, that's not a requirement. But there will be no more excuses or debates about Trevor Lawrence after this year. He's either going to turn into a top 7 or top 8 quarterback, and everyone's going to go, Well, it was the coaches in the past. He finally got people that can build something around him and put put a correct structure around him so he could succeed. Or it's going to be he ain't who we thought we were. Even if there's a reason for it, like if he's not healthy again or something happens, there will be people that will then believe, I'll believe it when I see it, and I don't think I'm ever going to see it because of this, that, or the third. This is it. This is where this is where your foot meets the road, man, or whatever they say. Like, this is the moment of truth. This is the moment of truth for Trevor Lawrence. Now, I think he's going to pass the test. I really do. I think at some point, like right in the middle of the year, Jaguar fans will look up and go, we got us a really, really good quarterback. Maybe not a dude that's going to knock Patrick Mahomes off of his high horse. Jalen Hurts just showed you don't have to be. All you got to do is be the best player on the field at a particular time and play within yourself. He's a Super Bowl MVP, even though he made a bad throw in the game. But even overcoming the bad throw that he made in the game, they blew out Kansas City. You just have to play within yourself. But you also have to do for Trevor Lawrence what Howie Roseman and my man Dave Caldwell have done up there in Philadelphia. And that is, you got to build it. You got to build it around him, man. You got to put him in a situation where he's going to be at his absolute best. You have to, because if you don't, you're really wasting it and you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up Trevor Lawrence if you don't do that. And I have the utmost confidence in James Gladstone. I have the utmost confidence in Liam Cohen. I know that the priority is to put him in the top position, in the best position he could actually be in. Now, when it comes to the adding weapons, I saw that the Bears, right before I started recording today, the Bears, not only did they go out and get Jonah Jackson from the Rams in a trade, they also traded for Joe Thuney, right? Or Joe Thuney. You wonder now, there are people out there already saying, well, damn, Ben Johnson got the memo. Isn't this what the Jaguars should be doing? I don't know what the Jaguars' plans are. I don't even know if they reached out. I don't even know if they knew that Thuney was on the board. And I don't know if Kansas City would have traded him inside of the conference. But yeah, that's kind of what you want to see him doing, right? You want to see him going after these big people movers up front. The compensation is the 2026 fourth-round pick for Thuney. Don't know how much he has left. The dude's an all-pro, but he's a very, very, very good player. So, yeah, Jaguar fans would have been going absolutely crazy today had that happened, because they would then see that the Jaguars were being true to their word and that they were, and I still think they are. It's just that every move doesn't have to be the one that you make. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to judge the Jaguars because maybe they have something on their board. Maybe the Jaguars in their draft already have an idea of who's going to be their left guard. They already have an idea who they're going after in free agency. And if this wasn't it for them, how can you blame them? You can't get upset. You definitely can't get upset if this wasn't on their trestle board. If this was not in the cards. Like, I think sometimes what we do is we think that everything that happens is something that everybody needed to investigate. Like, Joe Thuney's 32 years old, right? So maybe even though he became available, even though he's a good player, and even though the shelf life of guards that play a long time in this league can go up to 34, 35 years old, if that wasn't on their blueprint, then they can't stop what they're doing and all of a sudden just go all in on going out and getting a 32-year-old guard. You have to ask yourself, too, why did the Chiefs do it? Are they trying to save money? What do they do? I think they probably feel like they have a young guy who they need to get on the field, and they're going to play him. Their problems were their tackles last year, right? And maybe they know he slipped a little bit, and probably if you watch the tape, there's a chance that you'll see that on tape too, that maybe the name right now is bigger than the ability that he still has. But I would like to see and know soon what the Jaguars are going to do, and we're going to find all of that out in free agency. I think very, very quickly in free agency, you're going to see the Jaguars make some moves. Now this puts guys like Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins ain't going back to Chicago. There's nowhere for him to play. you got to think maybe they look in that direction, although he's another one who hasn't been very much available. And it's a good draft for interior offensive linemen on day 2 and day 3. So maybe the Jaguars can do something in those areas. We're going to find out, man. Y'all stay with me every day, each and every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we'll make sure that we get all of this information to you. Also, check us out on Locked On NFL twice a day. Tyler Rowland and myself. Tyler comes on in the morning, and I come in the barbershop in the afternoon. And we use the help of local experts that tell you exactly what is going on with these teams. Like, for instance, Lauren Cox did a show with Locked On Bears a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, in fact, and he said that with their first-round pick, the Bears weren't going to take a guard. They were going to have to take a tackle because he thought the Bears would go out in free agency and do something in free agency at the guard position. And now, just like that, they've done it twice. They've done it twice here within a matter of a week. Ben Johnson has gotten busy. Your time is coming, Jaguar fans. The Jaguars will upgrade the offensive line. They will do their due diligence. I think they're also going to add more weapons on the outside. All of that is to make sure that Trevor Lawrence stays upright and Trevor Lawrence is at his absolute best next year. Make sure y'all tap in to Locked On NFL twice a day and Locked On Jaguars each and every day, because it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Thank you to our sponsor, Chewy, for today also. And that concludes the show where I talk about Trevor. No more excuses. This is the year for him to do his thing. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.